Hey.
So what do you? So a couple questions here.
Sure.
What do you prefer in the studio better, or do you like on stage? What's your? Do you have a preference?
They're two different animals. You know, honestly, it's two different animals. With a live audience, you get the energy that the people bring, and that's
the feedback instantly.
Right. It's just like an instant family and gratification of them interacting, and what we like to do at our shows is we give out tambourines and shakers.
Right.
You know, we make our own shakers and we give them to people. Come to the show, be part of something happening in a moment.
Yeah.
And we want people to come out to the shows. But I think the studio is another thing, because you can really get emotional and inside your brain a little bit, and you hear weird things. You know, but there's a fine line. You don't want to do too much, because if you can't portray it later, like in a live setting. Mm-hmm. But I love that stuff too. That, you know, sometimes there's only an album track.
Right.
You know, it's just for the album. You'll never play it live or something. You know.
Yeah.
So I love them both dearly. It's just they provide two totally different things. And I love the studio. You know, one thing I love about live, and they have their comparisons. You know, they have their the things that they're the same in. Like with live, we have people sit in with us a lot. And with studio, I have people come over and play a lot.
Right.
You know, so it's like you're still creating that family. You know, I think, but in the end, it's all about family. It's all about the good love. It's all about good vibe. Mm-hmm. And I think you can get that either way. But they are a little bit different. Sometimes vastly different, and sometimes very, very similar.
Right. So how's your songwriting process? Do you like go to a specific room? Do you like, you know, or just, you know, jot something down on a sheet of paper if you have an idea?
Well, there is a constant pen to paper thread that happens. I do write a lot, pen to paper. The guitar playing just kind of comes as a thing. Like I don't have a whole lot of like outside stimulus when I'm in my home. I don't have cable. I don't have you know, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of me sitting down and just like kind of just being in the moment. And you just have a guitar in your hand. You run a couple. You know, you just find a couple of riffs, and then you look through a couple, you know, things that you have written. I wish I had more time to do it, but I've written so many tunes that I'm still kind of playing those, and then those, you know, when you play those kind of feed into other tunes. You go, oh, you know, what about this riff, or you know, especially if you're taking lessons or if you're learning from other players, you take in everything. Everything at some point becomes part of a tune. In some way, you know, some emotion, something weird, something somebody said, a weird feeling, or a riff, like you hear something. You know, I heard a story one time. This guitar player, very famous guitar player, said that he would turn Zeppelin on in the car, his car radio, and he would mow his yard. And in the mowing process, he could hear tones, and he would kind of take those tones that he heard, which to us are Led Zeppelin songs, but to him it was something that it wasn't exactly Led, you know, like he wasn't hearing much bass or hearing too much bass or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
So he would like formulate his tunes afterwards. He was like, oh, okay, this riff sounded cool right here. And then, so I think we gain inspiration. Nothing is brand new. I don't think there's anything, it'd be hard to find something that's completely brand new. I think everything gains inspiration from something before it. So the songwriting just comes from like just being still for a minute and taking in your day and trying to explain yourself.
So what would be one of your biggest influences, would you say? Who would you draw? Or, you know, I'm sure there's a couple of artists or bands, but who would you put at the top?
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
Yeah. Gotta be careful here. Well, not to say this would be my top influence, but there is a songwriter out of Austin, Texas named Bob Schneider.
Okay.
And he's been in several bands, and he's very prolific and very big and boisterous, and he's had a couple of bands that he's fronted, a couple of bands he's just kind of been in, but he's always been a songwriter type character, you know, always been that guy. And he's just constantly putting out new material. He's just constantly churning it out. And so I love that part about him, is that he's able to do any type of show. He could do a Bob show, he could do a full band show, or he plays with strings sometimes. So I love the versatility of that guy. But I love rock and roll, you know, and I'm not gonna lie, I love punk, and I love some of the stuff that set me on fire early on when and it's hard to get away from those influences.
Right.
Like REM, Out of Time, that record.
That was amazing. It was an amazing.
1992 probably was a big year for me. So I think it has. Now that we're talking about it, I think ultimately a big part of my influence would be the people that I'm around
Yeah.
consistently, my band are massive influences. My girlfriend is a massive influence. Her tenacity and her direction is a huge influence. My friends, you guys got to hustle. You're in your own little hustle, so how could that not be an influence to somebody?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I think ultimately we're all influences, and you have to wake up, get your business together, and stay positive and stay focused all day, because at some point you're an influence to somebody.
Yeah, you just feed off
But,
everybody's
yeah,
problems.
totally. And
Keep it going.
if you get it in, you got to get it out. But I love REM. I love I love that '90s movement. I love a lot of what's current. I'm not gonna lie. I love some like Humphreys McGee. I really like those guys. I really love Wilco. But there are just some Pink Floyd. I mean, I don't know. I could.
You can
You can
list
go on.
on and on.
It's probably bands that have like a prominent singer songwriter
Yeah.
present, as opposed to like a full four-piece where there's not like any definitive members. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, with REM, you go Michael Stipe, Pearl Jam, you go Eddie Vedder, and then I think of Bob, and I think of like Wilco. They all have very prominent, and not to say that their band is not important, because they truly are, but
Yeah.
that figure, I think. And I think frontman used to be pretty important back in
Yeah.
the 90s and 2000s. and then it turned into like bands really being consistently awesome all around.
Right.
And like, and even now, I don't think I think you just go, those guys are awesome, but it's never like...
It's never the front man as much now as it used to be.
It's not so much the front man as it used to be, and I think that's where I came from. Is I started playing when I was 16. So.
Now, did you aspire to be the front man?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, you mean did I buy the shoes and the shorts? Yes.
I have shoes exactly like those, actually.
Yeah, I probably did. I remember I had a pair of Docs that I bought early on whenever I think Pearl Jam 10 came out, and Soundgarden, Bad Motorfinger, and I was just like, I want to be those.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Or STP.
try to totally.
Radiohead.
You try to keep it, try and be as original, but you're gonna no matter what you do, no matter what you say or how you dress, I think invariably your influences pop out. And I've heard many times that I sound like a certain couple of bands, but I hear those certain couple of bands consistently.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I used to write a lot of songs and such, but it would seem quite often the songs that I would be writing would kind of be, like you were saying, I don't want to say borrowing or stealing, but they would be influenced by Oasis for a while. I would go through where I'd listen to like Oasis, Be Here Now, which is their third album, because most people know What's the Story, Morning Glory.
Yeah.
Everybody
But
has
it would be like for a while, I would go listen to STP for maybe 6 months straight, and so I would have a lot of abstract kind of lyrics and such. Does that kind of thing follow you? Whatever you're listening to,
Yeah,
influences?
it can absolutely, and I've gone through periods. My build up to doing records is I'll shut down as much as I can of the auditory of the. I won't listen to music as much as I can. I'm very addicted to listening and buying as far as music goes, but I try not to listen to too much if I'm writing or if I'm mixing, because then you lean heavy. You go, oh, I love the way his kick sounds.
Right.
And you try to make your kick sound like their kick, or guitar tones or whatever. So I try to just try and get in as much of a bubble as I possibly can, but it doesn't always work. And I'm never going to apologize for sounding like certain whoever's or whatever. I think I have my own distinct style, but I'm sure that a little bit of what I love, what I bought,
a dash here and a pinch there.
Yeah, probably so, and I'm okay with that.
But it would seem also like it would be if someone would compare you to said artist, that it would be a compliment to you as well.
Absolutely, yes. Well, one of the best. With that in mind, somebody told me that I reminded them of Blind Melon one time.
Okay, I could see
that would probably be one of my top 5.
Yeah.
Again, I hate to.
The great Shannon Hoon gone too soon.
Yeah.
Because that top 5 is really about 200.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's just according to how you list the 5. It's generally about 200. But so yeah, somebody said that, and that was a big moment for me. I was like, oh man, I didn't know anybody got that. Mm-hmm. But it's surprising, because sometimes I'll hear, I hear somebody said that we sound like Tesla one time, and I do enjoy Tesla for sure.
Yeah.
But I never would have ever thought somebody would say that. You know, it's
Right.
like, what? And then somebody said Rob Thomas one time too.
Okay.
Which I could kind of see probably, but then it's not somebody I thought that I would sound like or that they would get out of me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well,
Even though they're big bands, and I love Tesla and I love Matchbox 20, I just never would have thought. That.
Well, I guess maybe described to Jeremiah as maybe like Dave Matthews Solo.
Sure.
Have you heard that one before?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
The
So-
Some Devil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's that. I can't. I would definitely say that I've seen him a handful of times. But it was a big time. The '90s were big for creating a lot of what we're listening to currently. Whether anybody currently likes to realize it or not, what was happening in the early '90s was a big part of what we are now.
I think that's one of the greatest influences, the early '90s movement in music.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now,
sure.
I mean, obviously there's the Beatles and Stones and all those.
Oh, sure,
but,
yeah.
But a lot of the younger people that might not go back that far, they'll like the '90s had like a big resurgence lately,
Sure.
and not only in movies but in fashion. I said movies, didn't I? I meant music.
Yeah.
Music
Okay.
and
You love
everything.
movies, though.
I do.
But I'm sure it's true in movies. I'm
Yeah.
sure that they go back in movies too.
Yeah, I think the movies of the '90s might be better than the movies today.
I don't know.
I don't know.
There was a lot of gone too soons in that movie category.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, the '90s was great because you had all the different movements. There was
Sure.
Like all the different, you had the what was it, the grunge stuff.
Right.
coming out. Then and then you had Dave coming out. Then you had all those different influences that there were so many different outlets. I guess I don't know.
I think a lot of new things, a lot of new technology was being created.